She was trying to defend her ground. Hey, Crystal. I know, but she was still see y'all. We still got to get out and vote. You never know.
You can't see me.
Yeah.
Can you go a little bit stronger? Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Crystal Spain, and I am the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party. I am standing here today with less than 60 days out from our historic first in the nation primary. South Carolina picks presidents, and in less than 2 months, we have the chance to show the rest of the country exactly why. No one can be the Democratic nominee without the support of our electorate. And for the first time ever, Black voters, rural voters, and Southern voters will get to have their voices heard first in this process. And with so much on the line in 2024, we're going to use every tool at our disposal to make sure that South Carolinians are fired up and ready to go to cast their ballot on Saturday, February 3rd. That's why I'm honored and excited to announce that we're starting our voter outreach earlier than ever. Our First in the Nation Road to the White House Get Out the Vote initiative. The South Carolina Democratic Party is building a diverse statewide team of folks to lead a brand new voter contact and voter education program in every corner of the state, from our largest metropolitan areas to our smaller rural counties. We're going to be on the phone, we're going to be on the doorstep and at community-led events. South Carolina Democrats will be meeting voters where they are to talk to them about this primary. We're not just meeting voters in Columbia and Charleston. We'll be in Aiken County, Horry County, and Orangeburg County, and all the 46 counties across the Palmetto State. We're leaving no Democrat untouched. This is about centering the voters who make up our extremely diverse electorate. We're putting Democrats front and center and making sure they know that the state party is committed to providing them with the information needed to vote and have their voice heard in this process. While I can't promise we will turn South Carolina blue in 2024, I will promise that we're going to change our trajectory next year and for years to come through this statewide investment. We're going to fight to keep our First in the Nation status by making sure our voters know how to seize this opportunity. And we're going to build better, stronger relationships with our local partners and allies because it's going to take a team effort to do that. This is the beginning of a new era, and the South Carolina Democratic Party, one where this is a new era for the South Carolina Democratic Party, one where we use our resources to meet voters early and often, not just around election time. This GOTV initiative will not only serve us for February, but for the future as we build lasting infrastructure in our county parties and our other local organizations. I'm excited, and we can't wait to get this program running. With that, I'll pass it over to our Executive Director, Jay Parmley.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm Jay Parmley, the Executive Director of the South Carolina Democratic Party. I'm in my 9th year, second stint, 9th year as the Executive Director, and this is the 3rd presidential primary that I have been at the state party where I've had a front row seat watching South Carolina Democrats not only pick nominee after nominee, but president after president. So I cannot emphasize enough how excited our Democrats are across South Carolina to be the first in the nation to pick the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. This statewide Get Out the Vote program that our chair just described to you is going to be integral in making this primary a success. So let me just lay out the extent and how massive this effort is going to be for the next 54 days. First of all, I want to introduce you to the person whose responsibility it is to actually make all this happen, and that is Lindsey Green. Lindsey is a tested South Carolina political operative. She served as campaign manager for Adair Burrows when she ran in the 2nd Congressional District, and for Michelle Shane, who just ran for mayor of Greenville. We're thrilled to have Lindsay join the SCDP team and lead this statewide voter initiative. Along with Lindsay, we'll be bringing on over 50 staffers and fellows to plan events and engage directly with voters all across the Palmetto State. We have regional directors representing all parts of the state, from the low country to the upstate. Additionally, we'll have very specific event coordinators and voter contact folks who will put together voter engagement and contact programs to meet voters where they are and ensure that they have the information they need to vote and to promote the work that Democrats are doing all across our state. And because young voters are absolutely crucial to our coalition, we'll have a campus lead organizing group that will target outreach to young voters all across South Carolina's college campuses. We'll also be working closely with our 46 county chairs. They play a big role in the work we do on the ground to build the relationships we need to reach Democratic voters over the next 54 days. This team will be the building blocks of an infrastructure that we're creating not only to boost our turnout for the February 3rd primary, but this will be the start of our work for November and elections beyond. The bottom line is we're investing in long-term results. And finally, the most exciting for many people part of this next 54-day effort is we're bringing back our bus tour. We love the bus tour. Jamie Harrison loves a bus tour. Loves a bus tour. So on January the 13th, the SCDP will launch the First in the Nation Roadshow, a statewide tour where we will meet voters where they are. Also, we're going to help people make sure they're registered to vote. Voter registration will have passed by then, the deadline, and also help people make a plan on how they will vote on February 3rd. Like we've been saying, this really just isn't for the next 54 days. We're really doing this to jumpstart our organizing efforts for 2024. Now, the man whose idea is the bus tour, actually, he's probably going to end up driving the bus by the time it's all over. Our good friend, the chairman of our party, and our, really more importantly, a great South Carolinian, Jamie Harrison.
Hello, everybody. You know, I really wanted to buy a bus in 2020, but maybe next time, Hello, everybody. It is always so great to be back home in the Palmetto State and the first in the nation state with each and every one of you. So thank you all for being here. You know, as the chair of the National Democratic Party, I am proud of the work of all of our states, but particularly I'm proud to be a South Carolinian. I'm especially proud of the work we've done to elevate the voice of South Carolinians in the democratic process. After all, we know South Carolina picks presidents. But this is about so much more than just being first on the calendar. As a black man from South Carolina, this is so personal to me. This is about the people in our country that are not seen, that are not heard, and that don't feel valued. Folks who grow up and live on dirt roads. Folks that don't have college degrees. Folks who live from check to check. Folks like my grandparents. My grandma who had an 8th grade education, who picked cotton and cleaned houses. My grandfather who had a 4th grade education and who paved roads to help us get by. You know, society called my grandparents simple people, but they were wealthy in terms of their values, hardworking and moral. In American history, these people have been forgotten, and many times voiceless and voteless, particularly those in states like South Carolina, a state where over 40% of enslaved Africans were brought through the port of Charleston, where the Civil War was started. That's the story of South Carolina. And bringing South Carolina to the forefront of our primary is about making sure that our story and our people are represented, that they're heard, that they're valued. No longer will South Carolina be at the back of the bus, but it is now at the front of the bus. Remember, it was the people of South Carolina who put our president on the path to the White House. South Carolinians know the value and the reverberations when we make our voices heard. And that's why I'm so proud of the new programs and investments that Crystal and Jay and the state party are making to ensure that every single person from the upstate to the low country to the Midlands to the PD are able to make their voices heard on February 3rd. As I like to say, Democrats, we are workhorses, not show horses. So we have to make sure that we are putting in the work to make sure everyone is registered to vote, and we need to send a clear message to the rest of the country on February 3rd. So whether it's all of the new staff, the new voter registration program, and yes, the first in the nation bus tour, we are keeping our foot on the gas between now and primary day. Folks, these investments will have an incredible influence on the long-term trajectory of the party. Brick by brick, we will get the job done. This is about living up to our state motto, while I breathe, I hope. And some of you know I like to modify that motto a little times when it comes to election time. Because hope, in order for it to be realized, we got to do some work to get it there. So it is not while I breathe, I hope, but while I breathe, I vote, because that is how we make hope real for so many people in this great state and across the country. So between now and February 3rd, again, that motto will be, while I breathe, I vote. So we got to get out the work, we got to get the job done, we got to go around this great state. And I really want to say a special thank you to Crystal Spain, the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party. Folks, Crystal is a historic figure in this state. She is the first African-American woman to ever be the chair of either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And with her historic chair, tenure as chair, she's making a historic effort. Because again, this is the first time that South Carolina will be the very first in the nation. And so I'm so proud of the commitment. I'm so proud of the plan that Crystal has put together. I'm so proud of the work, and I'm so proud of the historic results that I know we will see because of this primary. So with that, I think we're open for questions.
Perfect. I'm going to call on people. Thanks. Joe, do you have a question?
Yes, on the voter turnout efforts. This is also about the effort about trying to make sure we keep South Carolina keeps its position in 2028. What kind of voter turnout do you need to see, or do we need to show for the DNC to say, yeah, we'll keep South Carolina first in 2028?
Well, listen, in the end of the day, I think if you take a look at the track record of the South Carolina Democratic Party in terms of getting voters to the polls and picking the eventual nominee of the Democratic Party, it's almost second to none. And so I am assured that we're going to, with this plan that Crystal has put together and that Jay's worked on, that we are going to get the turnout necessary to demonstrate to everybody. Because we know here in South Carolina, but to demonstrate to the rest of the world that South Carolina is where presidential politics starts from now on.
Nick?
So I know that we mentioned that this is going to be a long-term effort. In context, I know there's been a bit of dialogue nationally about a sense of apathy growing amongst the key demographics of the Democratic Party, particularly among voters of color. There was actually a piece in Political Magazine a couple of weeks ago that kind of dove into this trend a little bit, very Midlands-centric. And just given that backdrop, I wonder how this effort is meant to re-engage some of those voters and get them back invested in the message of what the party's doing.
Well, listen, if you're going to win elections, you got to talk to the voters. You got to reach out to the voters, and you got to go to where the voters are. And so part of what we have to do here in South Carolina and across the country is make sure that we're actually going and engaging with the voters. We can't take anybody for granted. I think the stakes are so high in this election coming up because democracy is on the ballot. Seriously, when you have a presidential contender who basically said that, yeah, he can be a dictator on day one, we've never seen or heard anything like that in politics. Not in my 47 years, not from a Democrat or a Republican, but we got a former president who just said that. And so we got to take this stuff seriously. And that means engaging people where they are, going all over the states, into the towns and rural areas and urban areas. And so we're not going to take anything for granted in South Carolina or any of the states.
And Paul, do you think that there's a bit of an information gap with some of the Democratic voters about what the president is currently doing? I know that a lot of people just generally aren't too excited about the current nominee.
No.
People fired up to vote for.
Well, I think we have to make sure we educate people on the track record of Joe Biden. I mean, objectively, you take a look at how much legislation this president has gotten done and passed and signed, how many billions of dollars that have been allocated to our states and to our friends abroad. I don't think since LBJ have we seen a more productive administration than this one. And given the fact that he had a 50-50 Senate on a good day and a 5-seat majority in the House of Representatives. So it's important that people understand what Joe Biden has actually done, from student loan reform to judges, to criminal justice reform, to infrastructure. Remember, Donald Trump talked about infrastructure week for what, 4 years? Never fill a damn pothole, right? And Joe Biden got it done in his first year. Cut childhood poverty in half, put 160 judges on the bench, 50 of them African American. Find me a president that has ever done that, to make sure that there's a seat at the table for every single person. That's what this president has done. He's even led the charge in making South Carolina first in the nation. Remember, for all of my lifetime, Iowa and New Hampshire have kicked off this process. No president, it was almost the fourth rail in politics. Nobody wanted to take on Iowa and New Hampshire in terms of changing up the schedule. Well, guess what? This president did it. And so Joe Biden deserves a lot of credit for how we have moved forward, and we're going to make sure that we do that. Now, one of the things I ask my friends in the media is, instead of covering what type of shoes he's wearing, let's cover some of the great things that he's actually gotten done. And so that's something that I'm going to continuously push. I'll do my part, but let's focus on the things that really matter to the American people.
Mary, do you have a question?
Sure. Since the DNC is investing so much into this, should South Carolinians expect to see President Biden here on the stump in the next 2 months?
Well, listen, of course, anytime we can get the president here, we would get it. But I'll leave that to the chair.
Yeah, we expect to see the president here. I can't speak to when, but I do expect that that he'll show up here in South Carolina.
Yeah, for both of you, what do you make of the conversation that this whole calendar moved to South Carolina, where clearly Joe Biden had a monumental campaign shifting win in 2020, that move was orchestrated to give him maybe an easy win or an easier win for 2024? What do you make of that conversation?
Well, Meg, I know that there's been some journalists who've written about that in a very cynical fashion. But if you take a track record, look at the track record of Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina over the past few cycles, almost to a cycle, South Carolina has been spot on in picking who the eventual nominee has been. The only exception, I believe, was 2004 with John Edwards and John Kerry. Edwards came in first, Kerry came in second. That is the only exception, the asterisk. And we know that Edwards was from South Carolina. But if you look at the other states and compare them, there is no other state that has a better track record of picking the eventual nominee for the Democratic Party than South Carolina. So given that track record, doesn't it deserve to get an opportunity to be first when we see that the backbone of the Democratic Party also, with no exception, are African Americans? So this will be the first primary where you have, the descendants of those enslaved people that I talked about, who will get the opportunity to pick the most powerful person on the face of this planet. I think that's significant. And I think Joe Biden deserves a lot of credit for moving South Carolina to the front of the line and to give that opportunity to African Americans. So now the conversation will shift. Instead of talking about ethanol, we're going to talk about black infant mortality rates in the state. Think about the power that now gives black folks to help set the agenda for presidents from this election to future elections. It's more than symbolism. That's real power and real influence. And so I'm proud that the president has done that, but it's just one example of how he has changed the game moving forward. Crystal?
No, you said it all. I don't know if I could have said it better.
We have time for one more question. Gavin, do you have anything?
Jamie, I just have a question about the cost and the investment from the DNC, then also what's maybe being met or matched here locally with the state party. Is there a dollar amount you can point to for this effort? And also, has this built upon your historic run in 2020 with the money that your Senate campaign brought into the party?
Well, listen, Crystal came to the DNC with a vision and a plan. She's been fundraising all the time, even calling me. I'm a monthly donor to SEDP, and will continue to be so. And so she's done a fabulous job of coming together with a plan and with resources and asking for the DNC to be a partner in that. And so we wanted to make sure that we worked with Crystal. But really, this idea, this thought, the exception, I give the credit to Crystal Spain, Jay, and the team here at the South Carolina Democratic Party. They wanted to make sure that this was a wonderful opportunity to kick off this presidential primary process. And so we are committed to working with them on that. We always have a partnership with our state parties, and we send resources every month. But we felt that this was important enough to really partner with Crystal in moving forward on. And then as it relates to money from my campaign, I hope we can get more money into South Carolina to continue to build infrastructure. And I continue, along with Jim Clyburn, to be supporters of what Crystal does and at this party to rebuild the South Carolina Democratic Party. We know it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but she has the right vision and the plan to get it done. Crystal.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Joe.
Melissa, did you want me to do any follow-up all? Thank you, everybody.
Always excited.